there's maybe 3 people that know about this, so this is gonna be shock. Yeah, stories need to be shared. I've been really scared to share this, and I genuinely just want people to know how worth living life is.
She is a singer, a songwriter, the founder of AlphaWell. She's not just a gymnast, not just an author, not just a singer, but she's a bridge between strength and softness, between grit and grace.
I got mentally into a super, super dark place. If you didn't do this, or if you didn't achieve this, then you're not worth anything. My body changed, and that took a huge toll on how I felt about myself. I didn't even think we were gonna get this deep. That was one of the first times that I had suicidal ideations. God, if I'm supposed to be on this earth, please let this person find me before something happens. That experience has changed my life forever.
All right, everyone. Thank you for joining us for another episode of David's Saturday Night Sitback. My commitment to you this afternoon is that by the end of this episode, your internal fire will be burning a little bit brighter. Through my guest stories, I know that by the end of this episode, you'll have the confidence to take your dreams and turn them into goals, so that in the near future, those goals will become a reality. Our ancestors have been telling stories for generations, so my challenge to you is to listen to the entire episode, share some laughs with us, and think on your own life story up to this point and how it could change through your actions from here on out. With that said, for today's guests, imagine being born in Utah, but spending your childhood oceans away in Thailand. You grew up navigating 2 different cultures, 2 different worlds. You're the second oldest of 7 kids, which means your voice matters, but only when it carries weight. Now picture this. You discover movement early. Gymnastics becomes your sanctuary. You train for 18 years, building a body that knows how to bend but never break. You learn discipline, control, and how to fall without fear. And you begin to realize that fitness isn't just about performance, it's about identity. As you grow, so do your passions. You start sharing your story, not just through the reps and routines, but through music. You write songs, you release them, people start to listen, and whether you're coaching someone through a lifestyle change or standing behind a microphone, your mission becomes clear: to help others build a loving, empowering relationship with their bodies and bring more joy into the world. And that's exactly what Ambrian does. She's not just a gymnast, not just an author, not just a singer, but she's a bridge between strength and softness, between grit and grace. And today she's sitting back with us on David's Saturday Night Sitback. She is a singer, a songwriter, the founder of AlphaWell. I got the privilege of seeing her perform on her first day that she lived in Austin, Texas, and I'd highly encourage you to check out some of her songs, like the cover of If I Ain't Got You, her single Chocolate on a Cloudy Day, or my personal favorite, Where Are You Christmas, on Spotify, YouTube, her website, or wherever you want to listen to music. Ambrian, thank you for who you are. Thank you for being here, and welcome to your episode on David's Saturday Night Sitback.
Thank you. What a kind intro.
Well, before we dive into your story, the thing I think that's interesting about a lot of the intros I read for people is it's a lot of external stuff about your life. But I feel like as people, I am more than just a podcaster. You are more than just a singer. Mm-hmm. So just to ask directly, who are you? How would you answer that question?
That is great.
It's the hardest one you'll get all day. It's all downhill after this.
Who am I? Who is anybody? We're all trying to figure it out, right? Well, honestly, I'm somebody who is very passionate about life. Ambrian's very passionate about life. She loves people. She loves to bring joy into other people's lives. And I think at just my core, I want my mission of life to make sure that I bring as much good into this world as I possibly can. And I've found that through fitness and through music. And so as much as I can bring joy and bring good into this world, because there's so much evil and there's so many bad things, that is who I am at my core.
If you had to guess, where do you think that stems from? The desire to bring joy and goodness into this planet.
Probably going through a lot of hard shit. I mean, anybody who's been through extremely hard things in their life, you see such a side of the world that is so evil and so sad. And when you experience that side of the world and you can get a glimpse or maybe get a touch of an experience that is enlightening and fulfilling, you see the two, and you, if you can, instead of, taking that side and being like, I hate the world because this happened to me, and taking the victim mentality, you can see it from a different light, and it's completely life-changing. And so I think being a person who has experienced some really hard things, I mean, there's other people in the world who have experienced, I'm sure, much worse than me, but through my life and my experience going through those hard things, it has allowed me to see the good as well. I mean, without evil, there's no good. So
Yeah, you need them both, for better, for worse.
yeah.
We will go through your origin story somewhat chronologically, but before we dive into your early days, if you were to think of your life as a book and each day is a page, what do you think is one of those pages that adds a ton of context to who you are today?
That's a great question. Like, so many things to think about. I mean, I've lived a lot of dates.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Wait, can you ask the question again?
Yeah, if you were to pick one day that you feel like has a ton of context to who you are today, what do you think has been one of the more significant days of your life? And it doesn't have to be any particular thing. It could be a very happy memory. It could be the day that, you moved to Thailand. It could be anything, but just a day that you think probably set your life in a different trajectory than if you had gone a different direction, I guess, could be one way to look at it. Like, I didn't go to college for 4 years after high school. And I'm sure if I had gone right when I was 18, like many people had, my life would look incredibly different. That's not the most interesting answer. That's not how I would answer that question for myself.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure why I use that as an example. But I guess maybe that would be a better way to look at it. Was there ever a day where you made a decision, and maybe if you had gone the opposite direction, your life would look completely different right now?
Yeah, I don't know if there's a specific day in particular I can think of, but one thing that has impacted my life extremely is growing up in religion. I actually grew up in the Mormon Church, or Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I no longer am associated with that church any longer. However, growing up in such a place where you're taught to be very in tune with yourself and your soul, I think has done extreme milestones in helping me guide my life and lead my life and live a life that is close to God and His purpose for me. And that's kind of been a big goal for my life, and a big reason why I love fitness and music is because I feel like that's my way of bringing His light to the world. And so yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm no longer like associated with the church any longer, but I think growing up and having just the experience to like be so close to Him, I think that if I wouldn't have had that, I don't know how my life would have taken a different course, because having that relationship with God has done wonders for me in guiding me into exactly the places I need to be at the right times.
Just out of curiosity, since you've been in Austin, and I know it's been a short amount of time, but has anyone that you've met asked you, like, invited you to church, asked you if you've believed in God, asked you any kind of, like, question around religious themes?
They actually haven't. It's not really, at least not that I've experienced, a topic of conversation. However, I did start going to a church out here, just a non-denominational, just so that I can, have a little bit of peace, a little bit of learning while I'm out here. And it's been great. But yeah, no, I haven't really had anybody ask me that before.
I only ask because in my last episode, we made a joke that God is trending right now. We feel like more and more people are sort of making their way back to understanding God, not in a necessarily going to church kind of way, but in a more personal way.
For sure.
I feel like I was raised in a Christian church, and I feel like it was more of, we had this book with a set of rules that we followed, and we go to church on Sunday, but it wasn't like a personal connection. And now people have been telling me things like, I've been praying every day for the last 3 months because I feel like I've been needing to talk to God. I haven't been going to church or necessarily reading my Bible, but I'm having these moments where I'll take 10 minutes and just sort of talk with him about whatever's on my mind that morning.
That's amazing.
And I think it's really interesting that, at least from the people I've been talking to, I make it a joke that God is trending, but I feel like people are searching for something, but they're not searching through the church, like a building, you know, so to speak. And so it's just been something I've been observing. And if you ever have a conversation with someone, I'd love to hear about it if and when it comes up.
Yeah. I'm so glad you brought that up, because I agree. I do feel like it's quote unquote trending, if we were to call it that word, but
It's terrible.
But I mean, I think it's really cool and really beautiful that people are taking time to create such a personal relationship with God in their own time, in their own way, because that's such a beautiful experience if you can really get to know him on a personal level. And so I think it's beautiful that people want to learn about him and have a relationship with him.
I do too. Yeah, it's awesome. One of my favorite questions that I was asked was, I interviewed a guy who was essentially like a drug muler, let's call him, and now he's been sober for 5 years. That portion of his life is completely behind him. All the cocaine and heroin and meth, it's all in the past. And we finished recording, and he goes and uses the bathroom, and then he comes and sits down, and he says, "You have to be anywhere, or can I ask you a few questions?" And I said, "Sure, fire away." And he goes, "As a gay man, what's your relationship with God?" And I'm just like, oh my God, is this what it feels like to be in the hot seat? Now I know what you guys feel like.
Yeah.
As I'm peppering you with these questions.
What a wild question. Interesting. That is crazy.
All right, let's get back to your story. So Utah. How old were you when you moved to Thailand? Do you even have any memories from Utah, or were you guys?
All of them.
All of them. Okay, so you were there for a good amount of time.
Yeah, so we moved there when I had just turned 5 when we first moved to Thailand.
What's your earliest memory
Of Thailand?
ever?
My earliest memory ever. This is going to sound really crazy, but we were living in, I was 3 at the time, which this sounds wild. Like, how can you remember things when you're 3 years old? But somehow I do. Yeah, I was 3, and we lived in like a condo type situation, and we had this like tiny little, what is it called? Like the Pack and Play brand or whatever. You know, good hell, what the hell are they called? The plastic like little toys where they like make the slides and stuff. They used to sell them at Toys R Us. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Not Legos. No.
It's like, I'll show you a picture. But anyways, we had like this like tiny little slide in the middle of our house, and I was so little. Like I said, I was like 3, and I just remember like playing with my little brother down there, and like that's like my earliest memory that I can ever think of as like a kid.
It was a slide you could go down. Was it almost like, I think we had one. It was like the little structures where sometimes they looked like castles, and they took on different shapes, and they usually had like a thing to climb on the side, a little like house to go in the bottom. Yes, I know. I'll put a picture on the YouTube version for the audience, but
So anyways, that's like my earliest memory is just being in the basement playing with my little brother, he's my older brother actually. And yeah, so nothing too like extravagant there, but I remember, I'm like super strange. I remember everything about everywhere that I've lived, every house I've ever lived in, including the house I was born in. I could like walk you through the house. I don't know why my memory is like that. My long-term memory is like insane.
That's cool. That's awesome. How would you describe early life? What was your home like when you and your 6 siblings were growing up?
It was good. You know, we had a good home. Like my parents, they definitely provided for us, kept a roof over our head, and you know, food on the table, and I'll always be grateful for that. But there were a lot of things that were really hard about growing up. Yeah, it was difficult. I mean, I was the oldest girl out of all my siblings, and so I kind of naturally took on like that motherly role, and kind of needed to at some points. There was a lot that was going on with my parents. There was a lot that they were going through, and obviously nobody's perfect, but it was extremely hard for me personally because I had to grow up extremely fast, and there's a lot of things that I had to go through as a kid, and um, things I had to deal with that didn't allow me to really be a kid at all times, and that was hard. But I think that I'll always be grateful for those things because it's taught me, you know, who I am at my core and the type of person that I want to be, and just being a leader and being an example. And it was obviously hard, but that's in the past, and you know, I think it's everything happens for a better reason.
Yeah. You and your 6 siblings, how close and how old is your oldest brother right now, and how old is the youngest right now, just to get an idea of like.
Yeah, so my older brother is 29, and then my youngest sibling is actually 9 months old. So he's my half brother, the 9-month-old. So the 6 of us were all have same mom, same dad. And then my youngest little brother, he's 9 months old, and he is my half brother.
Okay, all right. You guys beat my family. I think our span is, I think they're 45 and 21 right now.
Okay.
So you beat us by about 5 years, or your parents beat us by
Yeah.
about 5 years.
Yeah. But yeah, it's having a lot of siblings as a kid is fun. You always have a friend to go to. You always have someone to hang out with or someone to talk to. And so it was fun.
And when you were 5, why the decision to move to Thailand? Did you all move? Was it just some of you? What and why Thailand? Talk to us about how this migration happened.
Yeah, so like I said, I grew up Mormon or LDS or whatever you want to call it. And both my parents had served their church mission over in Thailand, which is actually how they met each other. And so they both spoke the language fluently already because they had served church missions over there. And so my dad ended up finding some work over there, and I was 5, my older brother was 7, and then my younger sister was 3, I believe. And yeah, all of us moved over there and lived there for a while, and so yeah.
What would you say, to the best of your memory, which sounds like you have a pretty good one, so I'm hoping you remember, what was the biggest shock going from Utah to Thailand? Was there any big cultural differences where you were just like, whoa, that's not something we would do in Utah?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's funny because I actually feel like it's reversed because I was so little when we moved there. I actually felt more like everything in Thailand was like home and like normal. The bigger culture shock was moving back from Thailand to the States because I was like 12 or 13 at the time when we moved back from Thailand. And at that point in time, I'm like, you know, hitting those teenage years, and I had pretty much done homeschool the whole time we were in Thailand. So I was like, maybe that weird homeschool kid that like comes into, you know, school. And it was very different being in the United States versus Thailand. So that I think was a bigger culture shock for me.
What were some of the traditions in Thailand that you really enjoyed?
They have a lot. They're so like celebratory. So everything's like a celebration. They are celebrating all these things. I forget what the holiday is called, but there's a holiday where they just have water fights all over the whole city. It's crazy. Like everyone's like water guns and water balloons, and they do this like funny thing where they mix flour and water together so it's like white when you throw it on people, but it's like a whole city thing. Like you can't drive down the road without getting water like thrown on your car, and it's like it's kind of wild, but like little traditions like that are super fun. Or I think it's called, I'm gonna butcher this name, it's been so long since I've said anything in Thai, but it's called Loi Grotong, and it's where they actually, I don't really remember the reasoning behind this, but you make these like almost like candlelit like things that you would float on the water, and you decorate them, and then you light them with candles, and you just go float them on the water. Anyways, there's a lot of cool like little traditions that they do over there that's so sentimental and so celebratory. And I think growing up that way, seeing people so lively and so excited about life really gave me a different perception on life, and really made me appreciate so many little things in life.
Why do you know anything about their history or their culture as to why they're that way?
You know, I actually don't, and that's so bad of me.
It's okay.
I should probably know, but I actually don't. Yeah, I don't know too much about like the history there,
Yeah.
but
That was a very good sales pitch. I want to go over there now and get in a water fight.
yeah, no, it's so fun. They do so many fun things over there, and everybody is so nice and just like so excited to see you. Like we would walk down the street. Now, granted, like we were the only white kids within miles upon miles, but you walk down the street and everyone's so happy to see you, and and it's so. Anyways, it was a very fun place to grow up. Lots of fun things to do out there. I mean, even the zoos are like not typical. Like you're like riding elephants and feeding baby tigers and like hatching crocodiles. Like it's crazy. So
That's so cool.
yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah.
Do you remember growing up Mormon, because you were a kid, did you just sort of go with it? Did you ever observe other kids, whether it was here in the US or in Thailand, that weren't being raised religious, and you sort of maybe not questioned it, but
Mm,
actually that's a good word for it. You'd
mm,
question, like, oh, why are they not going to
mm,
church, and why are they not serving on missions? Like,
mm.
did you ever have any thoughts along those lines?
That is such a good question. And yes, like I'm actually a very observant person, so this is like right down my alley. I'm always like aware and paying attention to the things around me. And I definitely would notice it, but it's not something that I would feel so inclined to like ask them about. Like it was just kind of like, oh, this is how they live their life. This is how I live my life, which is so interesting because in the culture of being LDS or Mormon, um, it's very like you're supposed to share the gospel, right? You're supposed to share those things to help those people come to the church. And I just always had a very different view on that. And I never felt like I needed to quote unquote save somebody or anything like that because I just always had this like core belief from ever since I can remember that God loves everybody. Doesn't matter where you are in your life or where you came from or where you're going. Like he loves you for who you are. And I really just wanted to be kind to everybody and be an example of how I live my life. And if somebody saw how I live my life and wanted to, follow after that, that's amazing. Um, but I never felt the need to quote unquote persuade somebody to live how I did because people can tell. If I ended up having a genuine conversation with somebody and it just happened to come up, I would share. But I never felt like I had to like save somebody, like I just always had this core belief like God loves everybody and your job is to be kind and treat them how Jesus Christ would.
Yeah. I love that because I think, if we take a. Do you remember meeting Tyler, Amaya's
Yeah.
boyfriend?
Mhm.
I think part of the reason that we gravitated towards each other as friends is because I feel like he has a peace to him, and I feel like I am the storm. I feel like my life is just, or maybe not my life, more of my brain. Like my thoughts are just chaotic at
Mm.
times,
Mhm.
and he's never shoved anything in my face. But
Mm.
there have been times where we'll be sitting in the backyard in front of a bonfire, and maybe everyone else is inside doing something, and I'll just start asking him questions about his life because
Mhm.
I see something that I find that I want,
Mm.
and so I gravitate towards it, and I want
Mhm.
to know, how he processes things and how
Mhm.
he thinks, so I can try to find some of that inner peace that
Mm.
he appears to have. And so
Yeah.
I love how you sort of articulated how you felt you would share without sharing
Mhm.
almost, and if people gravitated with you, or if they liked your lifestyle, then they would
Mhm.
hopefully just come to you.
Yeah. Exactly.
Do you feel like Thailand had more of an impact on you than you maybe had on Thailand from a religious perspective?
Probably. I mean, the church when I was living there was not very big in Thailand. It's massive in Utah. Like in Utah's like the prime spot for like LDS Mormon, like it's huge out there. And so in Thailand it's like I mean, I remember one time where we were living so far away that the closest church was like 2 hours away. So every Sunday it was like a 4-hour round trip
Jeez.
to get to church and back. And so definitely like helped me remember the importance of a relationship with God for sure. I mean, just growing up, in Thailand, and something that I think is massive is that my upbringing, I was surrounded by so many different cultures and so many different people from different walks of life. And growing up in that environment gives you a very, very different view on life than if you grow up around the same people who do the same things from the same lives, you know? And so my perception of life is so vastly different than, you know, when I moved to Utah, I just realized that, wow, like a lot of people don't think the same way I do.
What were some of those cultural shocks that you observed when you moved back to Utah?
Well, Utah isn't the most diverse place you would ever go. And so, I mean, when I was in Thailand, like I said, like I was like the only white little girl for like miles, you know?
Yeah.
Like anywhere I went, there was nobody like me. In fact, I actually got bullied in the second grade because I was American. Because I was from the United States, these little girls from Korea wouldn't let me play with them because I didn't speak Korean.
Aw.
They told me that. Which is like kind of sad, but whatever. I was like in second grade. But like I think coming here, I realized that like people in Thailand, they're very friendly, they're very nice. Coming here, it was very, there were a lot of like cliquey culture, and it, for me, it felt like coming in at 5th grade. I mean, I lived in such a small town that if I didn't, it's almost like if I hadn't grown up with these kids since they were in preschool, like I wasn't going to be inside the group, because it was just, they all kind of grew up in their tiny little friend groups, and it was a small little town. And so this random girl moves from Thailand, like who the hell is she? And so it was very hard for me. I felt like in elementary school to make friends, but I mean, I made some friends. There was a really good friend of mine. I actually haven't talked to her in years, but she was the only one who came up to me on the first day of school, and she was like, I heard you're from Thailand, like let's be friends. And I was like, amazing. So like it was cool, but it's just very different because everybody where in Utah is very alike. They like to do the same things. They like to, it almost feels competitive in a way. Whereas in Thailand, I was just like a free spirit. Like do whatever the hell you want. Nobody cares. Like, you know, I never felt judged. But moving back to Utah, it felt very like if you don't do what these people are doing and live how they're living, like people are going to talk. And so that kind of started to stir up a lot of like anxiety. And I think that's probably like my first memory of anxiety, to be honest, is moving back from Thailand.
And were the expectations that you dressed a certain way, that you acted a certain way? What were some of those sort of expectations that maybe people had of how you quote unquote should be behaving that maybe you didn't bring to the table with you?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it is dress, and it's very modest, you know, cover everything up, including your shoulders, like no tank tops, no short shorts, like it's like basically to your knees or longer. Like it's a lot of like modesty, and not that that's like a problem, but it's very like picky about that kind of stuff. And even I remember I had posted a picture on Instagram on a Sunday of my hot chocolate, and there's something called Fast Sunday that happens once a month in the church, and essentially it's a Sunday where everybody fasts for like 2 meals. So you're not supposed to drink water, you're not supposed to have food for 2 meals, and that's your way of essentially kind of giving back to God, in a sense, is giving up those 2 meals. And I had posted this picture of a hot chocolate, and I think I was in like the 6th grade maybe, and I posted it on my Instagram, and I remember I had a friend who commented, so you're breaking the Sabbath, you're breaking the fast Sunday? And I was like, what in the hell? Like, I don't know, I just thought it was so strange. And like that, I've just noticed a lot of those little judgmental situations that I've kind of just observed over time. And I'm very much somebody who, like I said, I like to lead by my example. If you want to live your life one way, go do it. Like, you go do it. It doesn't affect me. I wish you the best. I hope you're happy. Obviously I have an opinion on how I feel like a life that is fulfilling should be lived, but it's not my job to tell somebody what they're doing is wrong or right, or judge them. Because if you're judging them, you're no better than them who is doing the wrong thing anyways. And so, I don't know, I've always paid very close attention to those things, and I'm not perfect. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm perfect by any way, shape, or form, but I think it's so important that we're not being judgmental of how people live their lives. And that is something that is going on in the world right now that is so sad to me, is that everybody is so judgmental about how somebody else lives their life, and who cares? Like, why does it matter that this person wants to go, they're like, oh, this person bought like a luxury car. Who cares? They probably worked their ass off for it. You don't know them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why does it matter? And I think that that's just so interesting that people are so passionate about how somebody else lives their life that they don't know anything about them. And so I just have always kind of been like, I don't care. Go live your life. Do what makes you happy. Obviously, like, don't do drugs. Like, don't, like, be smart. But, like, if somebody wants to get a tattoo, get a tattoo. If you want to dye your hair pink, dye your hair pink. Who cares? Like, be happy, be a good person, bring good into this world. And I think that's at the core really what God wants for us anyways.
Yeah. Yeah, you're happier when you're not judging people.
Yeah. And who has time? I'm like, who has time to think about anyone else's, like, what somebody else is doing?
If you do catch yourself judging someone in your head, do you have any tricks of like sometimes what I do is, like, in traffic, this is sort of a silly one, but if someone ever cuts me off, I'm like, you know what? It's probably a guy driving his pregnant wife to the hospital and she's like giving birth. That's play devil's advocate on their bad driving.
Like, extreme case scenario.
Do you have any mental hacks that you use when you accidentally catch yourself judging someone in the moment in your head?
Yeah. To be honest, I mean, a big thing is, like, just when you can realize that everybody's a human being and everybody makes mistakes, and everybody, including yourself, because I'm going to be super honest, I've been that person sometimes who's, like, cut someone off in traffic. I've been that person, and sometimes I still am, and, like, I'm not perfect. And so if someone does that to me, you kind of just have to look at it in the sense of giving them grace and being like, you know what? I've been in their shoes before. I don't know what's going on in their day, but I'm going to just give them grace and just let it be. And then you don't get, like, mad about it either, right? Like, instead of having someone fired up and then you're fired up and then you're like, you know, you're riding their tail and then it's like this whole thing, like, just let it go. And so that's something I've been practicing a lot recently. And I think the better relationship I have with God, the more that I realize that I'm able to have more inner peace that way, and just realize that when you're able to look at people just as a person, like, I'm not looking at you because of how you live your life or what you look like or what you do for work or whatever the case scenario, just as a human being, you're able to really just give a lot of people grace with their life. You know, you don't know what they're going through, what they've been through, and so you don't really have any room to judge them for the way that they're living their life or not living their life.
Yeah. You mentioned when you came back to the States and you were in, I want to say it was maybe no, you would have been older than that. You mentioned when you came back when you were around 12 or 13, that was probably the first time you got anxious. What did that anxiety look like?
How do I even describe it? It's so crippling. Anyone who's, like, dealt with, like, anxious feelings or anxiety before, it's such a, like, a jail in your mind. It's such a, you feel so trapped. It feels like your heart rate starts being, like, so fast. Like, you know, your heart rate's like 170 beats per minute. And it just feels like it's never going to stop. It just feels like you're stuck in this jail in your mind, and you can't get out of it, and you never will be able to. And it just feels like everything's going to come crumbling down, and everything's like, this sounds really dramatic, but it just feels like the world is, like, coming to an end for you. And it's very, like, that's the best way I can explain it. It just feels like a jail in your mind that you can't just make it stop. You just have to sit with it and breathe through it and let it pass. It's a very, like, interesting feeling. I've never experienced anything like it.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like I know exactly what you're talking about, and some people in the audience, like you said, may have been like, this lady's real dramatic, and I feel
Mm-hmm.
like the other half may have been, or I don't know what the proportions are, but there's
Mm-hmm.
probably a big part of the audience too that was like nodding along while you were saying that, and they were like,
Yeah.
"Yep, I know exactly what she
Yeah.
means."
Yeah. It's honestly can be a very scary place to be. And I've that's something that I've dealt with a lot throughout my life, and it's really scary, and if you don't pay close attention to it, you can end up in a really sad, scary place.
So take us through from that moment or that year, sort of through. I guess let's go with the end of high school for now.
Mm-hmm.
What were sort of some any was there any times during there that you think are worth bringing up, that adds either context to your story, or just anything you think is noteworthy that happened in those years?
Yeah. A situation that always stands out to me is, so I did cheerleading in high school. My first 2 years I did cheerleading. I was a gymnast for 18 years actually, but I wanted to be involved with the school, and so I decided I would join the cheer team. I had like the gymnastics, like the tumbling skills to do cheer, and so I knew that I'd probably make it. Um, and so my first year, it was going really good. I was making some good friends, and I was probably the one with the strongest tumbling, one of like two people that had the strongest tumbling skills on our team at that time, just because of my gymnastics background. I was throwing skills that nobody else was throwing on the mats. And people would say it's really cool, and I'd always have a part in the routine where I would throw like my big skill, and it was really fun. However, very soon into our basketball season, I had an ankle injury. I tore ligaments in my ankle,
Ooh.
and that took me out for pretty much the rest of the season. And I remember that happening. Obviously, I can't walk on it. I'm in crutches, and I still had to show up to practice every morning. And I showed up the first practice, and I went from like, it seemed, at least it felt like, everybody wanted to be my friend when I was, throwing all these big skills. And I walked into practice, and I remember my coach didn't say anything to me, and nobody else said anything to me. No one talked to me. My coaches didn't say anything to me. And I was like, what is going on? I was like, did I do something? And from that day forward, it felt like if I couldn't tumble, if I couldn't do the skills, then I wasn't worth anything. And so I think that for me, that was one of the first experiences that I had where I felt like my value of life was always tied to something that I had to do or had to achieve. If you didn't do this or if you didn't achieve this, then you're not worth anything. And looking back in my earlier childhood, I have some similar experiences, but that was like a very impactful one because I was like, why does nobody want to be my friend anymore? No one wants to hang out with me. And it was very interesting experience. And I kind of just like really observed that and the type of people. And that's something that's been a hard thing for me to overcome, is feel like my value of be just living, that I have value regardless of whether I achieve something extreme or not.
That's a tough story. How do you feel like you still carry that with you in some aspects today?
For sure. Yeah.
Has it lessened?
Yes, I think my purpose has changed. It's less become about me and more about how can I use myself as a tool to help more people. So I think there's still a part of me that feels like my value is tied to something else, but instead of it being about me now and the spotlight being on me, it's more of like, how can I use my talents and my gifts to help other people? But I still feel like I am needed to do as much as I possibly can to bring value and to the earth.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
So how did the rest of that season go? Because you probably had to
it was
through.
garbage.
Yeah.
It was complete garbage. Yeah, it was so trash. I got mentally into a super, super dark place. Um, this is so wild. Yeah, I got into a really dark place because I wasn't hanging out with anybody. I, quite frankly, like, I had started to gain weight, which is the first time I had really ever gained weight since being a gymnast, because I was so active growing up that I could pretty much eat whatever I wanted. And but now that I'm sedentary all the time and I can't work out, like, I'm not doing as many activities, my body changed, and that took a huge toll on how I felt about myself. And that year was really hard. It was a really hard year, and that was probably the first time that I didn't even think we were gonna like get this deep, but like that was one of the first times that I had like suicidal ideations, because I was in such a dark place. I felt like there's a lot going on in my household that didn't feel like home, and a lot of certain things that were going on there that made my house feel like not a fun place to be. And then going to school and feeling the exact same thing, it felt like I could never get out of that like anxious state. I was living in it constantly, and I just remember getting to a point where I felt like the only way out of it was to get out of it completely. And that's a scary place to be. That's a very scary place to be, and I really feel for anybody who has ever experienced that, and anyone who's watching this. Like, I hope that they know that, you know, they're cared for and they're loved, and I don't want anyone to ever feel like that, because life is so worth living, and it's really hard. But yeah, that was a hard time for sure.
Yeah.
Not the hardest, but it was a very hard time for sure.
Well, I appreciate you being willing to go down that path with me and for the audience. I forget if I told you on the phone, but during the first 20 episodes of this show, I made myself a promise to get those done, and if I had no idea what I wanted the show's end game to be, or who our target audience was. And during those 20 episodes, I think it was episode like 13, and the guest had sort of turned things around on me and got me to tell a story I was not anticipating telling that got me pretty emotional. And I went ahead and let the episode be released, and I was so anxious because I was like, I really don't want this out there, but so many of my guests have been so generous with their stories and, you know, talking about things, those really visceral moments. I was like, I would be a hypocrite to not, you know, let my own stories be out there as well. And so after it had been out for about 9 or 10 days, there is a kid that came walking up to me in the gym. I'd never seen him before, never met him, and I could tell he's walking towards me, making eye contact. He takes his headphones out as he gets a little bit closer. I took my headphones out, and he said, "You and me have something in common." And I said, "Yeah, what is that?" And he says, "We both have monsters in our family. For you, it's your dad, and for me, it's my mom." And he went in to tell me a lot about what was going on in his family life in that present time, and how he had tried to commit suicide when he was 15 years old. Unfortunately, was not successful. But it got me to thinking, as I was driving home from that conversation, how many kids, because I never thought about that before, like, think about taking your own life at 15. That's a rough concept for me to try to absorb, because it's like, you haven't even seen much of life yet. You're so young, you know? How could this be possible? And so I looked up and, you know, how many teens are thinking about committing suicide, and the CDC had a report, and in 2021, about 6,600 kids under the age of 24 years old took their own life. And I remember that was the moment where I knew exactly what this podcast was going to be about, was that we are going to tell stories for a younger audience so that they can hopefully feel like they're not alone. And, you know, if there is a 16-year-old listening to this, or 15, however old they may be, you know, by hopefully hearing your story and seeing you here today, it can give them a little hope that, you know, even if you feel like your whole life is just turned upside down in a mess right now, there is a solution, and there is a way out of that.
It's true. It's very true. And that's so sad and so awful. And I really feel for anybody who has ever felt like that or thought about that. It's such a sad place to be. And like I said, that was like the first time that I really remember that. And then there was a time that happened recently that actually nobody knows about, but I've been really scared to share this because it was like fairly recent, but I'm in a better place now, so I feel like maybe it's okay to share. And I genuinely just want people to know how worth living life is. Life is so beautiful, and there was a time, very recently, it was actually a year ago, almost to the week. I actually celebrated the anniversary like a week ago or a couple days ago. And I had found myself in that place again, but this time it was like 10 times worse. There was way more stress. I couldn't get that anxiety to go away. And in fact, I would actually track my anxiety on my watch. I had gotten an Apple Watch, and anytime I started to feel anxious, I would check my heart rate, and it would spike sitting like sedentary, like 170, 180 out of nowhere. And a lot of it has to do with a lot of traumas that I experienced when I was, younger, and I haven't fully processed those. And so they kind of, if you don't process those things, they're just going to come up whenever they feel. And I remember it got so bad. It was last year. And there's maybe 3 people that know about this, so this is going to be shock, I feel like. But, yeah, stories need to be shared. Yeah, it was last year, and it was so bad, the worst I've ever experienced it before. And this was the first time that I actually tried. And are you okay if we get into this?
Yeah.
Okay. It was the first time I'd actually tried, and I'm not gonna say how, because I'm not gonna try and give anyone ideas or anything like that.
Sure.
I don't want to trigger anyone's feelings, but I actually tried, and I'd send a text to a good friend of mine. Was the only person that knew that that's what I was doing. And I knew that they were busy at the time, so they probably wouldn't see it till later, which is why I texted that person and not somebody else. Because I was like, I know they won't see it till later, and then by the time they find me, it'll be done. And I remember I was about to pass out. I'd kind of lost touch with my body, and I couldn't move. I could barely open my eyes. And I just remember having this, my heart was beating like 1,000,000 miles an hour. And I just remember having this feeling, and I had this one thought before I passed out. And I was like, I don't know if I want this to happen. I had a moment of regret. And I remember just praying and being like, God, if I'm supposed to be on this earth, please let this person find me before something happens. And that's the last thought I remember happening. And it's such a weird out-of-body experience because I couldn't open my eyes. I couldn't move my body. I was barely breathing, but I could hear. I could just hear what was going on around me. And sorry if I get emotional during this, but I remember just laying there, and all of a sudden I hear the garage door start to open. And I just remember thinking thank fucking God. Thank God. And I didn't know if I was going to make it, but I could hear, so I was I'm somewhat conscious. That's what I knew. But I couldn't move my body. I was completely out of touch. And this person actually doesn't know that I know this story, or that I heard any of this. But hearing them find me in that state, I remember they opened the side door, and they call for my name, no response. And I'm sitting there I wish that I could just wake up, but I couldn't. I couldn't move my body. And I just remember them, the more they say my name, the more you can hear the stress in their voice as they start to be like holy shit, this person's not responding. And they get in the car and they're what the fuck did you take? What's going on here? They're stressing, trying to dig through all the things, and all I'm just listening to this and hearing I've never heard this person in such a panic in my whole life. this person is a very level-headed, calm person. And hearing them in such distress was heartbreaking. And I was like, I did this. I'm the cause that this person feels like this because of me. And hearing them, they're stressing, and then I listened to the whole 911 call. He called, they call 911, explain the situation, and yeah, that was hard to hear. And I remember, actually, I don't want to share that part of it. Yeah, it was really hard. And then, the ambulance got there, and they took me, put me in the ambulance. I had barely started to open my eyes when they put me in the ambulance. I remember looking at this person and wondering why they weren't coming into the ambulance with me. And then they closed the doors. And I start hyperventilating. I'm freaking out. I still can't open my eyes at this point. I barely open them and then close them again. They finally get me to the ER. And when something like this happens, they take all your things. They take your phone. They take everything. Because, it can be a danger. They don't know the situation at hand. And they get me to the ER. They're taking my vitals, all the things. They knew it was an attempt because they saw the note. I'd written a note, and clearly they had talked to the friend who found me. And at that point in time, I remember telling them, don't tell anybody that I'm here. I said, I don't want you to call anybody. I don't want anybody to know that I'm here. And I didn't feel like there was anybody who I could call that felt safe enough. The only person that knew was my younger brother. And he only knew because my friend knew his number. So he had texted him and was like, hey, did you know that your sister, this is what's going on this morning? He was like, what the fuck? So he was the only person that knew. But there was nobody that I was like, in this moment, I want this person here with me. I didn't feel like there was anybody that I felt safe enough with such a vulnerable moment that I wanted them there. So I said, don't call anyone. I want to be alone. And so because I didn't call anybody, and I didn't have anybody, and, they have you vaguely answer a couple questions with a psychiatrist or something. They ended up sending me to a psych ward or mental hospital, whatever you want to call it, up north for some time. And that was a very interesting experience because you don't have your phone. You're locked pretty much in this unit of the hospital. You can't leave. It's one square. Everyone has their own little room. And you have to leave the doors open at all times. The nurses come in and check on you 3 times a day. They take your vitals. It was very scary because I was alone. They have you take these medications, and I didn't even talk to a doctor when I got there. They didn't have me talk to a psychiatrist or a doctor before they start just prescribing me medications. And that was very scary because I was like, I don't know anybody. I don't know these medications. I was like, I'm not opposed, but you don't even have me talk to the doctor yet. And it was very interesting experience, but that experience has changed my life forever. When I was in there was people from all different walks of life. And most of them are in there because they had experienced the same thing with suicidal ideations or attempts. And it was very interesting the way people were treated in there. And even patient to patient, they would judge each other and be like, oh, this guy's the crazy guy. And there was this one guy who came in, and I'll never forget this experience. He came in a day or 2 after me, and he would sing in his room, and everyone can hear it down the hall, and I didn't really pay much attention to it. I would just walk laps around the unit and read a book all day because there was literally nothing else to do. And I would just observe, and everyone would always be like, oh yeah, he's so crazy, he's whack, whatever. And I'm like, aren't we all whack? We're all
Look where we are.
look literally where every one of us is. Like, who are you to judge?
Yeah.
It was so strange to me. But everyone treated him like he was like this psycho crazy guy. And I'm just not like that. And so I remember was very calm, like kind of keep to myself, but I was nice. I would smile at people while I was in there, but I didn't like try to associate with certain people, or anybody for that matter. And we were sitting at one of our meals, I think it was lunch or something, and I would just sit by myself, and he came over to me and he was like, "Is anyone sitting here?" And I was like, "No, go ahead." So I just like kept eating, reading my book. He's like, "Oh, well, what are you reading?" And I was reading, I think the book is called The 27 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership by John C. Maxwell. I think that's his name. Anyways, amazing book. It was like the only book on the shelf that like seemed like it had any type of like good context to it. And he was very like, talked to me very calmly. And I was like, he doesn't really talk to me how he talks to everybody else. But also, I did not treat him like he was psycho. I just talked to him like he was normal. I was like, "Yeah, no one's sitting here." I was like, "Yeah, this is the book that I'm reading. This is what it's about." I was like, "It's actually really cool. Do you want to read it after me?" And he's like, "Oh, yeah, sure. I think I like that." And it was so interesting for me to see how this person's presence completely changed when he interacted with me versus anybody else. When he interacted with other people, he became very obnoxious, very loud. But when he interacted with me, I was just like calm, treated him like any other person. He was very calm and normal, quote unquote. And just was very respectful, was a very nice person. And that was such an interesting experience to me because I'm like, it just gave me a different view on how we should be treating the people around us. And I remember coming out of that hospital and thinking, because given the circumstance, I guess we'll just trigger warning this because this will give context to what I'm about to say next. I had carbon monoxide poisoning, which is how I ended up, almost not alive. And I shouldn't have even been alive. Carbon monoxide is poisonous within like 5 to 10 minutes. I was breathing it in for an hour straight. And I don't have brain damage. My body's perfectly fine. And I'm alive. And I remember coming out of that and thinking, not everybody, like most people get, like, you get one chance at this life. You get one chance, that's it. And for some reason, I was allotted a second chance. And I just feel so much gratitude that I was given a second chance at life, because it's so unfair. Life is so unfair, and not a lot of people get that. I don't know why I was given that, but what I do know is that I remember thinking, like, this is my second chance, and I'm going to exhaust everything I possibly can to make sure that I take full advantage of this second chance and use it for as much good as I can. And that's when I started the business, and that's when I started pursuing music more, and I just want to bring as much good and as much light to this world in any capable way that I can, because I feel like if I don't, then why am I still here if I'm not going to use my things in my life to help somebody else? You know, I feel like you have to be very intentional with your purpose of life. And my second chance at life is my opportunity to make a difference. And even if I impact one person's life, that's more than none, because I almost wasn't even here.
Wow.
It's a mouthful, I know.
Do you feel like in the last year, how is your relationship, all the events that you just described for us, has that changed your relationship with God at all? Because I know you mentioned that you're not really affiliated with the LDS church
Correct.
anymore, right?
Correct.
How would you describe your relationship with God today?
Very close. I think I've always had a very close relationship with him, but there has been a big chunk of my life where I have kind of forgotten to talk to him. And coming out of this experience, I just remember thinking, like, when nobody was there for me, when I felt alone, he was the only person who was there. Because I should have died. Carbon monoxide for an hour in a very confined little spot.
Mm-hmm.
I should not be alive. And he is the only reason that I'm alive. Because I can't explain it. I can't explain how somebody could breathe that in for an hour and still be living. Especially at, like, in such a small space, it's not possible. And so I really just owe my second chance at life to him. And my job is to fulfill whatever purpose he has for me here. Whether that's smiling at somebody, it's just being a good person, but using my gifts and the tools that he's given me to help as many people as I possibly can.
Can we talk about music for a few minutes?
Please.
Not to do a hard transition, and it might sound like I'm transitioning away, but I feel like in a way it's all sort of mixed and meshed together.
Yeah.
When did you start singing? Have you always been singing since you were a little kid?
Yeah. So ever since I can remember, my earliest memory, I was like maybe 4, and I had gotten some like dinky little like Barbie microphone that with like the Barbie cassettes that are playing like the literal cassette tapes that are playing like Britney Spears, like old way back in the day. And yeah, that's my earliest memory of singing. It's just ever since I have memories, I've loved to sing. I've loved music.
When would you say you started singing with intention, I guess we could call it?
Like with intention to pursue, or just like performing in general?
Intention to pursue.
Okay. So I was probably graduated high school, and I would always sing growing up. You know, I would sing in church, or I would always like, you know, get a little solo at the choir concert or something like that. You know, I always wanted to do those things. And when I graduated high school, I remember I got super almost embarrassed to sing, because it felt like there's a lot of talented music people in Utah, like so much talent there. And anytime I brought up that I was a singer, sometimes I just felt like, oh, like, okay, so she sings too. And I felt kind of embarrassed about that. And so I would just sing in my room. And I remember my first experience living with roommates, they heard me singing. They're like, why don't you come sing in the living room? I'm like, because I don't want to, like, I'm embarrassed. What? And they're like, well, just come sing out here. And I remember I started singing, and they're like, well, why don't you go do something? I'm like what? Like, I didn't know what you could do with music. I didn't know the options. Anyways, I started looking into it, and I found a couple of restaurants that did, like, you could do live music at. So I went to the restaurant, and I booked a couple gigs. I went and did an audition for like an hour, and during like a lunchtime, and they're like, yeah, we want you to come back. So I would go almost every weekend to this restaurant, and I would sing there. And then I started singing at like retirement homes. There's a sweet retirement home that one of our sweet neighbors that I had growing up, she lived there. And so they would pay me to go and sing to these elderly people for like an hour. So I'd create a whole set list of like, you know, the Nat King Cole, Frank Sinatra, like the stuff that they love. And I would just go and sing to them. And it was like the highlight of their day. You know, they're dancing in their seat. I'm asking them questions. You know, I'd sing like New York, New York, and ask them, you know, who's been to New York out here before? Just really bring back those memories for them. And that was probably my first experience where I was like, wow, people are going to pay me money to like sing. That's wild. Like, I remember the first time, I mean, it's not that much, but at the retirement home, the lady paid me like $75 for an hour. And I was like, I almost made $100 singing. Like, this is so crazy. And I was like, wow, this is incredible. And that was kind of my first, like my dip of toes in like that, wow, people will pay you to do this. And it was cool for me too, because I was like, you think I'm good enough to like give me money for this? Like, that's fucking awesome. And so, yeah.
Yeah, when you did, quick side note, when you did one song from Maroon 5, I think it was Sunday morning?
Yeah.
And you did, what was the Frank Sinatra song you did that night?
The Way You Look Tonight.
Yes, how could I not remember that? Yeah, that is one of my mom's favorite songs. But I love Frank Sinatra and all those guys that performed
Yeah.
around that era. But when you did Sunday Morning, I looked at Tyler and I was like, dude, isn't this a great song? And I haven't heard it in forever. And he's like, I've never heard it before.
What?
And I was like, well, that makes sense, though, because I'm 38. So when Maroon 5 released that album, I think I was in 8th grade. And so
But
that
how
was.
old is he?
He's 26.
I'm 27.
Oh, so he should know it.
What the hell?
All right, Tyler, you just have poor taste. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Yeah.
But I couldn't believe it. I was like, how do you not? This is such a Sunday Morning is probably like, if I really put my mind to it and try to come up with like a top 5 favorite songs of all time, I think that one would be on there.
Yeah, it's a
just
great
so
song.
darn good.
It's such a good song, and it's just like so fun and so lively and like just so it's like a happy feeling song, you know?
Yeah.
Like you just listen to it and it puts you in a good mood, and so yeah, I love that song.
So you were being paid. You got your $75.
Yeah.
You're doing some music in the retirement homes. Would you say today, I guess I never even asked you this, I just sort of assumed, is music as well as AlphaWell the two main things that you're focused on in this current juncture of your life?
Oh, for sure. Definitely. Yeah. Music is my biggest passion. Seeing people's faces light up when I sing is such a beautiful experience, something to experience. Prior to moving here, I would sing. There's a little town called Park City in Utah. It's a huge ski resort. And I remember I wanted to make some extra cash, and so I was like, well, I'll just go sing on the street in Park City. There's a bunch of, tourists up there, a lot of people with money. I'll just set up a little setup on the side of the street, and I'll just sing and just get tips. And I didn't really know how to go over, but I was like, you never know until you try, right? So I get up there. I was scared out of my mind because everyone's dressed so nicely. I'm like, okay, this is like kind of bougie. Like everyone like looks so nice here. But I was like, whatever. So I find this little corner. I set up like my little Bluetooth speaker, the mic, the setup. And it's crazy like street performing because it's not like a planned ordeal. Like nobody knows that you're going to be there. So you just like start singing randomly. And everyone thinks it's like fucking weird. But if you like kind of get into the zone, like people really love it. And I remember like people would come up to me and be like, you just made our night, like you sang this song, or like seeing people's reactions, like they kind of look around like, where is this sound coming from? And then they'd see me like, they would just start smiling. And I remember there's one time where there was this like elderly couple. They're walking down the street, I'm singing Frank Sinatra. They just start smiling, big smiles. And then they'd walk past me. It was towards the end of the night, like there wasn't a huge crowd out, and he just starts slow dancing with her in the middle of the street.
Oh my gosh.
And
It's going to make me tear up.
It was just like so tender, and that's like such a core memory for them. And the fact that they got to have that memory because I decided to go and do something out of my comfort zone is something that I just remember. And I'm like, wow, like you really never know how you can impact somebody else's lives. And so often we're so consumed in our own lives and like, what does this person think about me? What if I don't want them to judge me. I don't want them to this, that, and the other. And it's like, you're missing the whole point. The whole point is that you're using what you have to potentially and probably impact one, if not hundreds of different people. You never know. There were hundreds, if not thousands of people that walked up and down those streets of Park City while I was singing. I would go every Friday and Saturday night. And you just never know,
Yeah.
You,
in any of your 32 moves, have you ever been to San Francisco, California by chance?
I have.
Did you ever visit a little city probably 45 minutes south of it called Vallejo?
No.
Used to play the piano at a church in Vallejo.
Okay.
And Vallejo is a city where there's a lot of crime, a lot of drugs, a lot of gangs, a lot of broken families. And the church that we were raised in was very much, just to say it bluntly, a very white neighborhood. A lot of people that were really well off. And that year, playing the piano for that church and seeing, in the middle of I don't want to call it a concert, but in the middle of the service when we're, in 3, 4, 5 songs deep, and you look over the crowd and you see people just dancing, crying, and just seeing how this music has an impact on them. I almost don't even have words to describe how you feel inside when you see people reacting like that. But it was very special too, because sort of probably similar to you and going to Thailand. For me, in the time I spent in Vallejo, I'm all of a sudden around every race of every that there is under the sun.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also a much poorer community. And just seeing people looking for something. Maybe they don't even know what they're looking for. They just know their life is not going in the direction that they want it to. And so they find their way into this church, and it felt like how church is supposed to be. It's not just a bunch of rich white people getting together on Sunday morning. Like, this is 600 people who are searching for something. And that was just, when you were talking about just how you've seen your music have an impact on people, you just brought me back to 19 years ago to when I was in Vallejo. And it was probably one of my favorite years of my life, even though I'm not really associated with the church anymore.
Yeah, music is such a beautiful universal language.
Yes.
And that's one thing that I love about it, is that, you know, everyone resonates with a different style of music or a different sound or a different artist. And so music is just a place for everybody. It's a place where everybody feels like they belong. It's a place where everybody feels like they're heard. And that's such a beautiful thing. And that's why I love it so much, is that, you know, everybody gets a piece of it.
Yeah. With where you sit in life right now, where would you like your life to go as you sort of daydream about what you see for yourself in the future? What do you think's on the horizon for you?
You know, I'm a pretty, like, open-minded person. I don't know specifically about things that are going to happen or not going to happen. But I think back to, like, one of my points earlier, in, like, my more intimate big goals, I just keep those to myself, you know? Those are things that are just special for me, but I just want to impact as many people as I possibly can. I want to use, you know, my talents, my abilities, my knowledge, my stories to influence and help as many people as I possibly can. And if I can touch even one person's life by making them feel like, you know, their life has purpose or that it's going to get better, then I've done my job. Yeah. And so as many people as I can influence and feel like they're, you know, they have a place here is what I want.
You will. You will.
I hope so. I really just, I have such a love for people. I just want people to feel special, you know, because coming from a place where, like, I know what it feels like to feel like I'm a nobody. And it's so special even when you just smile at somebody. You know, it makes a world of a difference and you never know. And so I want to be that for people. I want people to, you know, feel loved and feel cared about, whether that mean that, you know, they get in my coaching program and they start taking care of their body and they feel better about themselves, or they get my recipe book, which is on the AlphaWell website, and they learn how to have a better relationship with food because they found recipes that make sense and that aren't extremely difficult, or if they hear a song that I release and they, you know, feel touched by my sound, whatever the avenue may be, I want people to feel love coming from me. And so that's probably, like, my biggest purpose.
Yeah. I have one picture to show you. You didn't have too much on your Instagram, but there was one that surprised me when I found it because I almost couldn't believe what I was looking at.
I'm, like, nervous. What did you pull from my Instagram?
We're going to talk about one more transformation, somewhat fitness related.
Oh, my God.
Do you remember this one?
Yes, I do.
And for those listening on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, if you want to jump over to YouTube just for like 2 or 3 minutes, you will see this picture up. It'll take over the video for a couple seconds here. So if you want to see what we're looking at, feel free to jump over. What comes to mind when you see that before and after picture of yourself?
It's crazy for me to even think that this is the same girl.
I almost didn't believe it. I was like, wait a second, Ambrian. Is that you? I don't know if these two pictures are the same human.
They don't look the same. They look like completely different people. And that's the whole beautiful thing about it. You know, in the first and the before picture, I was in such a sad place. I wasn't taking care of myself in any way, shape, or form. Very victim mentality. Very, like, the world is coming at me. Everything's happening to me. And when I started to change the way that I think and view everything that happens to me as a positive, and that everything that happens to me is my responsibility. Even though certain things that maybe happened to me when I was younger might not be my fault, they're now my responsibility. And it's my job to be responsible for those things and take control of my life and make a difference. And so the other girl, she just realized that, you know, she needs to start taking care of herself, her mind, her body. And it's crazy how when you start making those changes, your whole world changes. I mean, I think about it now and I think about the person that I was back then. This was like 5 years ago, maybe 6 years ago. And I don't even recognize who that person is. I feel like a completely different person. And I think it helps me, because when I have people who come to me and, you know, they're in the same place I was, and I need help, I'm able to like feel for them, you know. But yeah, this is a crazy transformation, and I just want to continue to get better and progress and keep developing myself and growing as much as I can, because that definitely changed my life, making those decisions.
I want to read what you posted that day. You put, this was from March 4th, 2025, when you posted this before and after picture. And you said, looking back, I have a hard time loving that girl from 2020. All I see is lazy, unhealthy, victim mentality, and a negative person. But the one thing I forgot to remember is how brave she was. Brave enough to take the first step to bettering herself without caring what anyone thought. She did that and never stopped doing that. There are still parts of that girl that live in me, which are things that I'm not most proud of, but I think it's so important we recognize progress and appreciate where we are now. If you would have told me in 2020 I would look like this, I would die and be so unbelievably happy. Now here I am, quote unquote, that girl, still criticizing my every move, no matter how perfectly I follow my plan or how much progress I make each week. It still seems to not be enough. The fact is, no matter what you do, it will never be enough if your focus is always on what you don't have. Take some time and be grateful for what you have and where you're at, because the reality is that there is someone somewhere in the world dreaming of the life you have. And then to sort of follow up on that, fast forward 2 months, and on May 21st, you wrote, "Here's the secret. Consistency compounds. Progress and seeing results all comes down to hundreds of little wins added up, not just one big win. Stay consistent. Your time will come." And I really love that you posted that pretty close to each other, because I think sometimes we look at like your posts as something we don't have, whether it be, you know, I don't have that album, I don't have the body I want, I don't have the money I want, and it's so easy to not take action because we want to be able to just flip it around instantaneously. And the fact of the matter is after talking to 140 people on the show, no one had any kind of overnight success. There have been some beasts of human beings on this show, and if you go back and listen through their stories, it's all about taking those really small wins and taking what you have right now and figuring out, this is where I'm at, this is what I got, this is what life has dealt me, these are the resources I have, these are the friends I have, this is how we're going to take one small baby step forward. And I feel like most people, it's just that first step that seems almost impossible for them. But if you can take one step and 2 steps and 3 steps, you'll start to build the stack of evidence of proof to yourself that you're becoming the person that you want to be versus the person that you currently are. But if you never start building that evidence, you're never going to believe it for yourself, because the evidence isn't there. So you're not going to believe you're a healthy person because you're not doing anything to be a healthy person. But if you make it to the gym, and if you know, instead of door dashing, go get a salad or whatever the freaking thing is, you need to build that evidence so that you can believe it for yourself, because if you don't believe it, no one's going to believe it for you.
I love that you said that, because something that I get asked sometimes, or that I've been asked a few times, is that, like, how do you become confident? And I think, I don't know if anyone who's watching this, or if you know Layla and Alex Hermosi.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Amazing people. I love their content. They're such good role models. And, you know, they talk about this, that like the way to build confidence is not by achieving something, it's by keeping the promises to yourself that you said that you would do. So, for example, if I was like, hey, we're going to have a training session, I want you to meet me at the gym every day at 8 a.m., and I don't show up 4 days, and then on the 5th day you're about to go, are you going to believe me that I'm going to show up? Probably not. You're probably not going to be very confident that I'm going to show up that day. And so it's the same with yourself, right? Like if you are saying, okay, I'm making this plan, this is my meal plan, and I'm going to work out, I'm going to do cardio, I'm going to go on a walk, and, I'm going to start working towards this business or whatever. And every single day goes by and you don't do it. Oh, yeah, I got busy today. Sorry, there was like so much traffic. Like I just didn't have time to go on my walk. So I just don't have time. Oh my God. Like everything was just so crazy today. Like I'm so tired. Like I'll do it tomorrow. Like tomorrow's the day. Well, guess what? Tomorrow never comes. Tomorrow doesn't exist. If you don't start today, it's never going to happen. And so I love that because it's the way you build confidence with yourself has nothing to do with the outcome. It has everything to do with the inputs, not the output. And so I love that. Keeping promises to yourself is the best way to build confidence. I mean, my physique right now is not my favorite, but I am extremely confident in the gym. Why? Because I show up every day without fail.
The good days, I feel like, too, are the days you don't want to.
Exactly.
I didn't want to go today, but I was like, I got a podcast. I have to go. It's just part of my pre-podcasting ritual because it puts me in a good headspace. And the cool thing is once you do, and maybe not everyone will have the same experience, but I ran into my buddy Max, got to chat with him for a few minutes. I felt a million times better by the time the workout was over. I walked in feeling fuck this and walked out feeling let's go. So yeah, if you could really find the discipline to do to keep those promises on the days you don't want to do them, talk about a way to level up your belief about yourself.
It's so true. I mean, you talked about this actually on a previous episode, and I don't remember which one it was, so forgive me for the person who this episode was on, but they had said that, like, you'll always regret not going to the gym, but you'll never regret going to the gym.
That was Eric.
Yeah. I love that quote. It's amazing. And it's so true. Like, when are you ever going to regret trying? You never do. Every time you try, you're like, oh, and maybe you learned something. Or maybe you fell flat on your face, but that's good news too, because then you learn from that and you just keep going and you keep doing it again and you just keep trying and keep trying. And so it's such like, you're so right that like those moments when you don't want to do it is exactly when you should do it. And that's when it counts the most because no one's watching. No one's going to babysit you. I have clients, but I can't babysit them every day, all day long, right? Like they still have to show up for themselves and make the decision for themselves. And I'm just here to be that support system for them and walk them through the process. But you have to be the one to do it. And that's how you're going to build the most confidence in yourself.
Yeah. Real quick, as we're wrapping this thing up, we're not quite done yet, but we're getting there. To the audience, if you enjoyed this conversation today, do me a favor. We want to spread stories like these to these young adults that need to hear them. Ambrian showed up today and did her job. I showed up and do my job. The rest of it actually lands on you. And I just need you to do one thing that'll take about 10 seconds of your time and won't cost you a penny. While you're listening to the end of this episode, subscribe to the YouTube channel and follow the podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And if you do one of those three things, or even all three, if you're feeling very generous, we will be able to spread these stories to the kids and young adults and anyone else that needs to hear them. In addition to that, we are hosting our first in-person podcast with a live audience on Saturday, February 28th at 1 p.m. at the Austin Public Library, downtown Austin. It will be invite only. If you would like to join, email sitbackWithDavid@gmail.com, or you could probably scroll down in the show notes and there'll be a link there as well so that you could get a little bit more information. But if you would like to come experience this live and meet some amazing human beings and get your own internal fire lit, please join us. It's going to be a heck of a time. With that being said, what is one thing that you're going to do this week for either your music or for AlphaWell to continue moving your life in the direction that you want to see it go? What's that baby step you need to take next?
With music, it's been really just reaching out. There's a lot of restaurants out here. There's a lot of places to go. I actually street performed one time out here when I first got here, and it was rough.
What made it rough?
It is not like Utah. It was a tough crowd. Like, I came from Utah where I was making like between $125 to $150 an hour street performing. And I would do it, for 3 hours and make, $400.
That's great.
It's incredible. I was making more street performing than I was at my 9 to 5 job. Like, I would street perform for a total of 6 to 7 hours on Friday and Saturday night. And those 6 hours made me more than what I did in a whole week of my 9 to 5 job. It was insane. And so coming here, I'm like, there's more people. It's more lively. And I get out on the street and I probably made like $5. It was just like not the response that I wanted or maybe expected. And I think that scared me a little bit coming into this.
Yeah.
I was like, this is a different crowd. Like, these people are not from Utah, which is like crazy. But like, it almost reminds me of like, have you ever seen Wizard of Oz?
Yeah.
When she's like, we're not in Oklahoma anymore or whatever. I'm like, that's like my feeling. I was like, oh, holy shit. But I think for me to remember is that like, that's the whole beauty of it, right? Is that this next step for me is going to be harder. And that's the point, right? I talked about this little analogy before, and that is essentially that life is kind of like a little bit of like a video game, right? So like in a video game, you have, let's say, 20 levels, and every level, it gradually gets harder and harder and harder, right? So you pass level 1, you complete the challenge, you beat the bad guy, then you have to go to level 2. But now there's more bad guys, or the challenge is harder, or you have to learn a new skill. And every level gradually gets harder until, you win the game, whatever the case may be. And life is no different. So I think it's interesting to me when people are like, why does life just keep getting harder? I'm like, that's the point. The point is for you to like develop a new skill and grow and like become a better person so that you can, do more. Because if you just keep doing level 1 over and over, how fun is that? That's boring as hell.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to do that.
No.
And so life is no different. And so I think I've kind of found almost like an excitement and a joy in doing things that are so scary and so hard, because I know that this is the next level. Like when things get really hard and you kind of felt like you've like completed the last level, that's actually a really good sign that you're on the right path and you're about to level up. You're about to get that next level. And so I think for me, like, just to answer your question, because I'm kind of a yapper, that this week with music, there's a lot of emails that need to be sent, and I need to show up to a lot of places and put a face to a name for people so that they see my passion behind what I'm asking to do. And just with the business, I mean, posting consistently on the AlphaWell page is something that I've struggled with. Because I got to cook the recipes and they take, like, for me to cook it and film it and edit it takes so long.
Yeah.
But that's just me being lazy. Listen, I'm not perfect either. So, but yeah, those are 2 things that I'll do this week and make sure that, we're taking those steps forward to grow.
Shout out the cookbook real quick. And give us your sort of, pitch, your 60-second to 2-minute pitch on why someone should maybe venture over to the AlphaWell website and consider purchasing it.
Yeah, so the whole reason that I even made the recipe book in the first place, and I have a little story, a little bio on the website that you can look at, but when I was first starting out my fitness journey, I didn't know anything about food. I didn't know anything about cooking or recipes or macros or what was healthy and what wasn't healthy, all these things. And so because I had no idea, I felt really lost, and it took me a really long time through so much trial and error through the years trying to figure out, what recipes work, what recipes don't work. And so I just wanted to support people who are starting out in their journey. So who's ever starting out in fitness, whoever, doesn't want to take time, you scroll on social media, you find all these recipes, but then you got to stop the video, you got to pause it, you got to screenshot it, you got to do all these things, and it's so much work, and that's why nobody does it. And so I was like, well, I'll just put it all in one. There's a ton of recipes in that book: breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks, a huge variety of different things, and they're easy to make. Very like a lot of the recipes use like similar ingredients. So you're not going to have to go buy like 50 ingredients to make
Right.
2 recipes, if that makes sense. And so anyways, it's just essentially for anyone who's starting out on their fitness journey who feels lost when it comes to food or meal prepping or finding good alternatives. And so, yeah, anyone who's in that journey, like, go get the book. It's cheap. It's like $19.
I think $19.99
Yeah,
right
it's
now.
literally $19. Like, it's so cheap. And you can just get it straight on your phone. So you buy it, it sends you an email, you just download it straight to your phone or your tablet or wherever you like to view your recipes at, and it's incredible. I've tested all these recipes, I made them up. They're amazing.
For $20, you can change your life and a little bit of effort. It's
Yeah.
crazy to me. My grandpa was a chef in the Army, and so he always taught his kids, which one of them would be my mom, how to cook. And so they grew up in the kitchen. And so my mom sort of passed that gift to me and my siblings, and all she would, I don't want to say force us, because it was fun. It was a fun time, you know, but she would have us cook with her. So for me, cooking's always been second nature. And it's crazy to me, like when I had some friends over for Thanksgiving last year and made a pretty simple, non-traditional Thanksgiving meal. But I remember what my friend, one of them, was at this bar watching me cook, and he's like, I am blown away how you just took all those different raw meats and spices, and without any recipe or instructions, you just like transform this into a feast for us. And it's funny because we forget that things that are second nature for us are not second nature for everyone else. But a lot of guys in Austin, Texas don't know how to cook. It's not good. It's not good.
Well, you can buy the recipe book.
Yeah, go buy the book, guys.
Go buy the book.
One other thing I wanted to show you that's potentially going to make you laugh or cry is, you know how in the store you can go get fruit that's already cut up, and it's either in a can or a bottle, and it's either, it'll be like mandarins and fruit juice or mandarins in water. Look what I saw the other day.
This is like actually something that you saw at the store?
This is a real picture that I took at HEB about 2 weeks ago.
In orange gel. What the hell is orange gel?
It was like, who is buying this?
That's
the
wild.
FDA approved this? What is this? Mandarins and orange gel? What are we doing?
What
The
the-
pendulum has swung so far that
That's
we're
crazy.
now buying mandarins and
In gel.
orange gel.
Yeah, what? That's crazy. Yeah, listen, I don't know what's going on in the FDA world, but we're sticking to the Whole Foods over here.
Yes.
Whole Foods all the way.
Thank you so much for the beautiful story that you brought here today.
Of
It is
course.
truly, I feel so grateful to be able to sit here and listen to these conversations live, and then be able to spread them with the audience and see who comments and
Yeah.
who gets impacted by them. And you're just such a good storyteller. So thank
Thank
you so much for
I'm so glad.
shedding some light on things that you were not expecting to, and being vulnerable and genuine. And that is what I look for. I think those are the best guests, is the ones who are courageous and confident enough to let down their guard a little bit, and let us see that picture of your life that maybe wasn't the prettiest moment or whatnot, but you let the story out there so that other people can hopefully know that they are not alone.
Yeah, of course.
One of my two final questions, you don't have to answer now. I feel like it's sort of cheating
Okay.
to ask you a question and ask for an answer when you're in front of cameras and an audience.
Okay.
I would love to extend you an invitation to sing at the live podcast as people are coming in.
You want me to sing?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, sure.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
I'd love to. That's so cool that you want me to come do that, for sure.
And what's cool too is it's a public venue, so even there's gonna be people just milling about that are not there for the episode that might hear, and they might be drawn in and be like,
Cool.
oh, who is this?
Amazing. Yeah, I'd love to.
Your one experience singing in Austin, I have to ask, because I feel like this may have played into it. Where did you do that? Where were you?
When I met you?
When you no, when you got the $5 and you had
Oh.
we're not in Kansas anymore moment.
So I was on South Congress, and I was right by, there's a bar called the Ellis, and then it's like the Ellis, and then there's like this big stream of trees where there's like no restaurants or businesses or anything, and people are pretty particular about singing close to businesses because they don't want you to interrupt and yada yada whatever. And so I picked that spot underneath the trees, but people just like, I thought that it would be a good spot to go. Trash. Not a good spot to go. People just like walk past or like walk across the street. I've never had that before, where people like almost avoided walking past me.
Oh, geez, people.
And it was just like, it was such a strange experience, because like then there would be like, there's this one guy like going on a run, and he's like, you have such a beautiful voice. And I was like, thanks. Like, it was just such a weird experience. But I was like, maybe it's the spot. Maybe it's the songs I'm singing. Maybe it's interesting because in Park City, the streets are so small. Like, there's maybe one car that's driving up and down the road. It's a very, very small, like, main street town. And here, there's tons of cars, people doing all kinds of things around. Like, there's like 4 lanes of traffic in between me and the other side of the road.
Yep.
And in Park City, it's not like that. It's so close knit. So I'm able to interact more with the people walking past. You know, I can make eye contact with them. Even people across the street, will make eye contact several times and they'll start smiling and, whatever. Whereas here, I don't really get that interactive experience. And so I've kind of had to reroute maybe the way that I go about pursuing music out here versus how I did it out there.
Have you heard of Zilker Park yet?
I think so.
So you can't do it right now because ACL that's where they put on the concert, Austin City Limits, which is a real pain in the butt because that's also where I take Thad on the weekends. But we can't go there right now because
there's like
there's a concert, going on. So I have a little resentment against them that I need to work through. But outside of that, I wonder if Zilker would be a good place. I don't know because I'm not a musician and I've never sang out there. But Zilker is about I think it's over 600 acres, and there's people out there playing volleyball, doing yoga, playing soccer, on dates, having picnics, hiking with their dogs. And I wonder if you could maybe get more of that interactive experience by singing in a place like that where people are going to hang out for an hour versus on South Congress, maybe they're going to, go straight to a restaurant and then leave immediately or something like that.
For sure. Yeah, I definitely agree. Like the spot that I picked, and I didn't know anything about Austin coming into this. So I was like, okay, this is like the side of the street. That's what I did before. But I think I need to do a little more research on this area because I clearly don't know what I thought that I knew. But yeah, no, I agree.
It's funny that in the music capital of the world, people aren't more receptive to a street singer.
You'd think. That's what I thought. When I came here, I was like, everyone was like, it's going to be so like competitive. And I was like, I get out in the streets. I'm like, where's all the singers? Where's all the music? And so I was just like, I think the music scene is just a little bit different than maybe what I thought that it was here.
Yeah.
Which is no worries, though, because I feel like life is like that, right? Sometimes you have an expectation about something. It's not what you expected. So then you just reroute, you figure out a different plan, and you keep going.
Yeah. I also have I made a note to myself. I have a guy that's been on the podcast twice, and he's a friend of mine. And I believe that before his last couple albums came out and he started performing around town, he did a lot of busking. That's what it's called, right? Essentially.
It's like the slang term for what it is.
I'll have to ask him if he has any spots that I could send your way. So I'll text him for you and see if we can get you some.
As long as they're safe, because that's one thing about out here is that I'm like, it's not, again, we're not in Kansas anymore. Like, I can sing out on the street until 10 o'clock at night in Park City and not be too worried about safety.
Yeah.
Whereas here it's a little different.
You'll feel safe at Zilker.
Okay.
Yeah. There's not a lot of, I've been out there a million times and I've never seen anything nefarious going on around there.
Good.
So I can vouch for that. If nothing else, you'll be safe. Maybe you won't make money. Maybe you won't talk to people, but you'll be safe.
We won't die. That's good news.
There's one other thing that just came to mind. We were just talking about. Oh, I wonder if when they said that would be more competitive out here, if it wasn't so much like finding a corner that it's not like theirs already, as much as one of my biggest challenges that has been a frustration is getting other podcasters on the show. I have reached out to probably every podcaster in Austin at this point and said, hey, if their show has nothing to do with mine, I just invite them on mine. But if their show does have something to do with mine, I'll include in the invite, like, could I also come on your show? Like, could we do a little whatever?
Yeah.
Yeah, that thing.
And a little exchange.
Yeah. And I've heard that's a really good way to grow podcasts for both of the podcast hosts because you're exposing an audience that maybe had no idea about mine to theirs and vice versa. And no one ever gets back to me.
Really?
And so all I can do is speculate. But if I had to speculate, which I shouldn't, but I'm going to, is I wonder if they are instead of going through life with an abundance mindset, if it's more of like well, I'm not going to go on his podcast because then what if my listeners listen to my episode on David Saturday Night Sit Back and then they really like his show and they stop listening to mine so they can listen to his. And I wonder if there's something like that going on in the arts here where people are operating. What is it when you're not working in an the opposite of abundance? It's what's the other word? It's when you're acting scarcity. When you're acting in a scarcity mindset. And it's like, at the end of the day, for both musicians and podcasters, we have billions of people on this planet, and there is more than enough listeners for all the musicians and all the podcasters. And I don't think we have to operate from this fear of losing our audience anymore.
Yeah, it's true. And to be honest, like, I don't even think about that. Like, at least with my stuff, like, I'm like, if this resonates with you and you feel connected to it, that's amazing. And if you don't, then that's okay too. It doesn't literally hurt my feelings. Like, it's interesting because I recently started TikTok for my music stuff, and it's not something that I like talk about or like show people necessarily. I started it like a week ago, and my first video that I posted, I just sang a Billie Eilish song, like a different take on how she sings the song, and I specifically said that like this is a different take on her song, like it's a different style, it's a different way of singing it. And one of the comments was like, last post.
No, come on, people.
Like, but I'm like, it's hilarious to me. Like, and that's okay. Like, there were a lot of comments that were like, this is not how Billie would sing it. Billie wouldn't sing it like this. I'm like, that's the point. Like, my name isn't Billie Eilish. I don't know if you didn't notice that, but my name's Ambrian, not Billie Eilish. So that's actually the whole point, which actually is such good news for me because I'm doing exactly what I said I was going to do. I said, I'm not singing this like Billie, I'm singing it like me, and that's the whole purpose. And if you resonate with it, that's amazing. And if you don't, that's okay too. Because I don't think that we always have to agree with everything or, you don't have to always like everything that everybody else does. Like, you find your own things, and that's really cool. But that's what makes the world such a cool place, is that everyone kind of has their own little place, you know?
Yeah. It's funny. Well, it's not funny, but I asked someone on a date on like Tinder or something a couple months ago, and he responded back and said, I would never go on a date with a podcaster. And I responded back and I said, why? And about 10 minutes later, I got like a paragraph about everything wrong with Joe Rogan. And all I wanted to write back was to say, but I'm not Joe.
Yeah, like, I don't know if you noticed, but my name's David.
And before I could respond, he blocked me. And I was like, in a way, that's a good thing. Like, we just figured out we didn't bother wasting our time by going out and spending money. But at the same time, dude, like, come on, like, just thinking about when, like you said, you're not Billie. You are putting your own spice on a song that you love. And if you don't like it, you don't have to listen.
Exactly. I actually had a conversation with somebody recently. They were explaining how they felt that they had to hide some of their tattoos because of how other people might feel about their tattoos. And I was like, if they don't like your tattoos, they can close their eyes or they can look away.
Yeah.
Like, it's not, I don't think that we need to be offended by the way that somebody lives their life. Go let them live their life. If you like this, great. If you don't like this, great. If you like my voice, cool. If you don't like my voice, that's fine too. There's a huge list of like singers out there who are massive singers that I'm not a fan of either. But that's okay. It doesn't mean that they're not talented. It just means that I don't vibe with their stuff, you know? And I think it's okay to like not agree with everything that's going on, you know?
Yeah. One of the I'm enjoying this, just swapping short stories to wrap this thing up. One of my buddies he wasn't a buddy at first, but I walked up to him just in the wild and said, hey, my name's David. I have a podcast. This is what it's about. If you came on, what do you think you would talk about? So we had a 10-minute conversation. We go to the same gym, so we've ran into each other 20 times now. And somewhere in those 20 encounters, he said, I was really surprised that you asked me on your podcast. And I said, why? And he says, because he's covered in tattoos. And he says, I feel like most people assume that like I'm dangerous or I'm a criminal or something. So for you to come up knowing nothing about me. Like, you didn't know anything except what I look like. That's it. That's the only context you had. And you took a chance and invited me on your show. And this is actually an interesting story to sort of bring this thing back to full circle about the whole judgment situation. Is Eric is one of the coolest guys I know. He has integrity, he's kind, he's generous, he's thoughtful, he'll go to bat for you, he'll have your back for you. And it's a bummer to think that there are some people that may see his tattoos or anyone with tattoos and automatically make an assumption about what kind of character they have simply because they have some art on their body.
Exactly.
It's a bummer, and we shouldn't do it.
You shouldn't judge it anyways. Like, it's not your place. It's not your place to judge how somebody lives their life, whether they are doing something aligned with how you do it or not. It's not your place, because I'm not even gonna go down this road because I could just go off.
Fair enough.
But it's not anybody's place. You know, that's God's job. You're not God. So unless your name's God, then you need to get off that pedestal.
I've never met a god. I'm glad not too many parents are using that as
Just
Can you
not.
imagine if you met someone?
Yeah.
Hey, I'm Ambrian. Hello, I'm God.
That's me. That would be crazy.
Your parents set you up for a wild life. That's going to be a hard one to navigate from time to time.
Yeah. No, it's true. It's like, you know, it's not. And again, I'm not a perfect person. I've judged people before. I totally have. But it's just, nobody's perfect, but it's not anyone's place. You know, someone's going to live their life how they choose to live their life, and that's okay.
Yeah.
It doesn't affect me. So.
Start playing devil's advocate, people, for them. When you judge someone, just tell yourself maybe they're driving their pregnant wife to the hospital. Again, that's just a car situation. But
like, what if that's you and you're having a bad day and you just want to get home because you're frustrated and you just want to get in your bed and, you know, lay down and go to sleep? Like, that could be you. You know, that's probably been you. So give them some grace, because you've probably done the exact same thing before.
Yeah, give them some grace. All right. If you made it to the end of Eric's episode that you referenced, that you watched some of, you know that I've had a newer tradition where for your final question, I fan out this deck of cards and you get to pick one, read it out loud, and then answer it.
Okay.
Because you have been so transparent, I am going to give you a hint that the ones about here over are a little bit more intense, and the ones from here this way are a little bit more casual. So if you wanted to end somewhat more casually, maybe veer over this way.
I'm not scared.
Then veer over this way.
I'm not scared. We can just... All right. Let's see what we have going on here. What is one aspect or feature of your life that causes you the most friction or discomfort, and how could you change or fix it? It's a great question. The most friction or discomfort. This is so interesting, because this is something recently that I have actually not cracked the code on, but I used to feel like everything that I did in my life, I would make the wrong decision and it would impact somebody else's life. And so it caused me a lot of stress. Like, well, if I say this, then what if this person doesn't this? Or, you know, I guess a lot of things that I would choose in my life, I would make decisions based off of somebody else's needs and not my own. And so I'd kind of put myself on the back burner, mostly in like relationships. And that would cause a lot of friction and a lot of discomfort for me, because I'd put everybody's needs above mine. Basically, that like mine didn't matter. And although it's so good to serve, I think simultaneously you need to take care of yourself and fill your own cup, because if not, you get to a point where you can't help them anyways, because you're so empty that you can't do anything about it. And that has, it has ended a lot of relationships of mine. Well, I haven't been in a lot of relationships, but the most recent, I was so focused on everything that was going on with them that I really kind of forgot to think about myself and have respect for myself. And so there were some things that I put up with that I probably wouldn't put up with now. And yeah, I've kind of noticed that I do that in my life, whether that be like I want them to like me or I want somebody to, like I want to feel accepted. Kind of like what we were talking about earlier about like the experience at the cheerleading where like I was only accepted if I did such and such things. And so I think getting to a place now, I feel like I've gotten to a place where I have been able to almost set myself aside or like, what's the word, compartmentalize the situation and say, I can care about you, but I need to do this for me. And one of those big things was actually moving to Texas because there's a lot of people in Utah that, I could, for example, my brother is having a baby and it's happening soon. And I'm not there for this process of, her being pregnant and all these things. But I knew deep down in my soul, I'm like, I have to do this. I have to go to Texas. I have to do this for me. I have to go take care of myself. I have to go live my dream. And if I do that and take care of myself, I can actually help these people way more than if I just stay here and just keep giving from an empty cup.
Yeah.
So
there'll be plenty of opportunities to see that baby. And, it's interesting, too, because you don't even know, what impact it might have on that child to be like, oh, where's Aunt Ambrian? Well, she's in Texas working on music. And that could inspire them at a very young age to start, the wheel turning of, what am I going to do with my life? Knowing that there's this great big world out there and I can go wherever I need to pursue, whatever those dreams are.
For sure.
So that's cool.
Yeah.
Ambrian, this has been such a good episode. Thank you so much for everything you brought to the table. I really appreciate it. Welcome to Austin, Texas.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. And we just need to find you a place now where you can start making some money again. I'm sure that corner exists somewhere in the city.
Oh, I'm sure it does. I just got to find it.
Yeah. Exactly.
But thank you for having me.
You're welcome. My pleasure. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. We'll see you guys live on the 28th if you're in Austin. If you're not in Austin, thank you so much for, tuning into these episodes through whatever platform you're on. Stay healthy, stay happy, and have a great Saturday. Bye, everyone.